very good afternoon and welcome to UBC Lunchtime News today on the 20th of April 2024. My name is Sharon Kyomugisha. Following the recent closure of businesses in Uganda, President Yoweri Museveni has directed for a suspension of all penalties by URA against the traders. The president also informed the traders that he would meet officials from the Ministry of Finance and the Uganda Revenue Authority for consultations on the 24th of April and then finally meet all traders at Kololo Independence Grounds on the 7th of May 2024. This was in a meeting the president had with the key leaders of Kampala traders at State House in Entebbe following a 5-day strike that saw traders close their shops protesting taxes by URA.
Enkola eno erina akuuma akeetagisa omuntu eyasoma okubeera mu dduuka. Omuntu ataasoma tayinza keekolerako nga ye. Ate ng'ennaku zino bizinesi tezikola nnyo magoba nga zinakusobozesa okwemployinga omuntu agenda okusobola okukozesa akuuma ako. Ekyokubiri, akuuma ako keetaaga omuntu nga yagaggawala n'akomayo okugeza bamanufacturers nga ye byagenda okutunda olusi teyasasula musolo ng'ayingira eggwanga lino ssebo ow'ekitiibwa.
Bw'ozaala omwana n'amala ennaku 3 nga talya mmere, omuzadde tosigala kye kimu. Kati gwe nga taata waffe emyaka 38 ng'olaaninga eggwanga lino, tukimanyi nti olina solution. Ezo z'okolera abakaaba, naffe tuzze gy'oli nga tukaaba. Tukkiriza tunaagenda okuva wano ng'ensonga yaffe ekoleddwako.
If you cut short the supply chain and you collect VAT only at factory level, you'll collect it from these few who buy from the factory. And then you miss the next level, which is much bigger, and you miss even the final level, which is much bigger. So the purpose or the rationale of indirect taxes like VAT is that it is paid by the vast majority who are the consumers, and everybody pays a little so they don't feel the pinch because it is distributed over a large number. And that is why it is an indirect tax, Your Excellency.
I have listened very carefully.
Omukulembeze awuliriza bulungi nnyo n'obwegendereza.
I think the original point we need to agree, all of us together.
Alowooza nti ensonga gye tulina okutandikirako, gye tulina okukkiriziganyako ffenna awamu,
bye bigambo ebibiri.
They are the two words.
Bwengenda mu Luganda ondeka. Ebigambo ebibiri biri twezimbe oba tuzimba abalala. Kubanga okusuubula by'osuubula obijjawa. Tulina ekyobugagga kyaffe, akatale ka Uganda. Ekyo kya bugagga, si kya kuzanyisa. Akatale k'engamba kali buli Munnayuganda kinoomu alina ssente zajja mu nsawo ye n'agula ebintu. Kati Omunnayuganda okugula ekintu aba awaniridde, bakwita kuwanirira. Tolaba nange Luganda ndumanyi. Aba awaniridde oli eyakola ekintu ekyo. N'olwekyo kano akavuyo akaliwo katandikiraawo. Now, the techniques I would like to study them, and then we we meet again on the 4th with you people, but internally I can meet these people on the 24th. The URA and finance and all that. But what I will not allow will be to penalize you. This penalizing, I will stop them from, that you need to do this, so penalty, no, that one I will stop. So that we get time to sort ourselves out. There will be no penalties. That one I will not allow, because we are still sorting ourselves out. But also now, don't make me a mistake. Temuntu meza, ntisarira wano. Kansoke neke nenye. And we meet, but you will not be penalized. And those who are penalizing and stopping your account, they should stop. Until we sort it out. I'll give you amnesty.
Now, following the meeting with President Museveni, traders this morning reopened their shops to business. This came after the assurance by the president that government was to handle and solve their grievances. Our reporter visited downtown Kampala, and this is how they feel.
abasuubuzi naddala abamu kibuga mwebale kusooka okutava mu mbeera naye nja kutwala mukisa guno okwebaza His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni eyawudde omulanga gwaffe n'avaayo n'ayimiriza ensonga ya IFRIS ekitegeeza tewakyali wa URA agenda kujja kuwamba ki basaba busabi buli muntu adde ku mirimu gye akole engeri gabadde akola bulijjo teri agenda mukuba ku ki
His Royal Highness, in more stories, the Umkoka of Bamasaba, Jude Mike Mudoma, has eulogized the late Umkoka, Emeritus Wilson Weasa Wamimbi, referring to him as a true patriot who dedicated his life to service for humanity, noting that his demise leaves behind a painful burden not only in the Bamasaba land but in the entire country. Take a look.
Yes, Uganda! That special burger is Uganda. So, yes.
Members. In my 8 years, I've worked very, very well with my Ugandan colleagues, Dr. Albert himself, the head of the National Secretariat of APRM, my sister Sylvia, the government, the leaders, ministers, His Excellency the President. So it's just for me here to come and really thank Uganda for all the support that I was able and very privileged to enjoy during my tenure, but also to say that the struggle continues for a better Africa. Of course, also the struggle continues in the domain of the work of the African peer review mechanism.
Actually, he made sure that APRM joins the African Union, and now APRM is part of it. And because of him, when Our Excellency presented the bottleneck report, he made sure that the bottleneck study is piloted in Uganda, which we did. And as a consequence, Uganda has been able to do three targeted reviews on the bottlenecks, namely on agriculture, on infrastructure, and public service.
Not only led us the countries and the APRM, but you've led our leaders, excellencies of the African Union. You have been a voice for the APRM, you've raised the bar, we have been integrated in the African Union, and we promise you that as you live in your future endeavors, we shall still work hand in hand to ensure that APRM goes to greater heights, but also the African Union is strengthened as a union for Africa.
Thank you very much. Okay, cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Asante sana.
Well, that was a story about a farewell event for one of the AU personnel. Now, moving on from that, His Royal Highness, the Omukoka of Bamasaba, Jude Mike Mudoma, has eulogized the late Omukoka Emeritus Wilson Wamimbi, referring to him as a true patriot who dedicated his life to service for humanity, noting that his demise leaves a painful burden not only for the Bamasaba land, but also in the entire country.
He was a unifier. He was for peace among the people of Masabaland. And he continued preaching peace until when he lives.
As Bamasaba, Wamimbi will be remembered as one of the elders who was very principled. He was a uniting factor. He was hardworking. He loved Masaba and wanted development for Masaba. He leaves a legacy of integrity, of hard work, of unity, and he loved Masaba land.
Wamimbi when he was in Mombasa as a manager in marketing, he marketed well the produce. I mean, he managed well produce from this country. Talk about coffee, cotton. He did well. That's why we managed to have exciting warehouses for Bugisu Cooperative Union in Mombasa, and also houses in abroad. If he was like some of the current users we have in those sectors, he would have sold them.
For 5 years, as his Minister of Information in Inzuya Masaba, and we the founders, he really mentored me. He was really my great role model.
He is the first Mukuka who worked without any controversies. And he handed over the chair peacefully without any problems at all.
Fred!
Osmosis.
Freddy! Fred Dollar, my boss, CEO Inojo, the general of generals, the conqueror of conquerors, the first and the final, the sky above the skies, the promised land, the terms and the conditions, the international king crocodile, the source of the
Osmosis.
the Nile.
I don't have money today.
Just take a polite loan of 200K to stock my shop. the signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hustle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting it. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
My name is Amos Muhinduki. I'm the chairperson Loans Committee for Chaka Central Produce Dealers Circle. We received the funds in 2021, so we have gone 2 years down the road. We got 30 million, but at the moment we have around 52 millions. We have 54 groups from within Chaka Central alone, and around 34 groups have benefited. We are expecting another funding from government so that we can also bring the other groups on board. We give them loans. First of all, they pay shares and also save 10% of the loan amount that they want, and they take the loans for 6 months.
Ebiseera by'okuzaayo abaana mu masomero tebiteekwa kukaluubiriza n'akatono. Eno kusimba nnyiriri mpanvu, kano kalipagano ka bidduka. Simanya kuzunga na banka siripsi? Kati osobola okusasula school fees z'omwana wo ate n'okola n'ebirala ntoko ku ssimu ye ey'omu ngalo. Ekikola kyangu nnyo. Nyiga bunyizi *165*8 ogoberera ebikulagiriddwa oba okozese app ya MTN Momo. Ate kati okola ki olwaleero? MTN Mobile Money Uganda Limited erungamizibwa banka enkulu eya Uganda.
Welcome back to Ubc Lunchtime News. From the international stories, Kenyan President William Ruto has said that the nation's military chief, General Francis Ogola, died in a helicopter crash, along with 9 other officials. William Ruto has also announced the 3 days of national mourning.
No, not at this moment. I think, as you mentioned, President Ruto has dispatched a whole team to get to the site of the crash to figure out, basically do an investigation and figure out what happened. Because as everything, as he said, as he announced yesterday, he said that the helicopter crashed right after takeoff, a little bit shortly after takeoff, basically. So at this point, we don't have much more. And I guess probably in the next few days, who knows, few weeks or few months, we'll get those answers now that a team has already been dispatched to figure out what happened.
Mariama, do we know the status of the 2 survivors that are in the hospital?
That's also a very good question, given that it only happened yesterday, and obviously General Ogola was among 10 people who perished during this helicopter crash, and obviously 2 people have survived, but not much has been coming out of, what their status is. Are they, is it very serious? Are they out of harm's way, or what's happening to them? So we don't really have that information either at this moment, but surely we'll get it to you as soon as it becomes available.
Mariama, how are Kenyans honoring the deceased?
Well, I think the Kenyans, it's a huge shock, given that the Kenyan population just went into another crash. It was a different one. It was
Very tragic accident to the country of Kenya. In more international news, U.S. lawmakers this week joined Rwandans in commemorating 30 years since the East African nation's genocide, where an estimated 800,000 people, majority Tutsis and some moderate Hutus, were killed. Take a look.
At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, earlier you had President and founder of Eurasia, Ian Bremer, Omar Sultan Al-Olama, the UAE's Minister for Artificial Intelligence, and IMF Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva. We'll have a full report on the IMF spring meetings for you on Monday. Rwanda that killed an estimated 800,000 Tutsis and some moderate Hutus, the Rwandan government is pushing to change how the genocide is referred to. The issue was addressed at a recent commemoration of the 30th anniversary of the genocide, also known as Kwibuka, in Washington, D.C., with U.S. lawmakers pledging support for the change. VOA's Anthony Labruto joins us now from Capitol Hill with more. Hello, Anthony.
Hi, Esther. Yes, it was a very powerful day on Capitol Hill for the commemoration of the Rwandan genocide. Hearing survivors vividly recount their experiences now 30 years on felt just as raw and powerful now as I'm sure it did for them then. Take a look. U.S. lawmakers gathered alongside Rwandan diplomats in Washington, D.C. for the 30th Kwibuka, or Remembrance of the Genocide in Rwanda. This year's Kwibuka, held on Monday, placed a special emphasis on survivors and their stories, as well as the work that's been done to repair inter-community relations since the genocide occurred in 1994. Referred to over the last 30 years as the Rwandan genocide, the Rwandan government has been pushing for a new name. It prefers the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda to give more recognition to Tutsis who were the majority of the victims and were specifically targeted by largely Hutu attackers. Rwandan government efforts to lobby the international community for the name change have been unsuccessful for the past few years. However, efforts made by the United Nations brought the subject back to prominence. Alice Weremu Indiritu, the Undersecretary of the United Nations Office on Genocide Prevention, has been at the forefront of that change.
And the Tutsi were targeted for extinction. Anyone else who died, and we do know that there were Hutu who died, who opposed this genocide. We do know there were other people who died who opposed this genocide, but they were not the target. The target was the Tutsi. They would not have been killed if the intention was not to kill the Tutsi.
Some U.S. lawmakers have also been receptive to the change. Trent Kelly, a member of the United States House of Representatives, has proposed a resolution for the United States to formally recognize the name change to be consistent with Rwanda's terminology. Members of the Rwandan diaspora say this will be a welcome step in acknowledging the additional work the international community must do to help Rwanda.
To be here 30 years later and seeing that this is the conversation that we're having and the right terminology is being used. So for us as Rwandans, this is very, very important.
For survivors of the genocide, sharing their experiences at the Capitol reminds the world of the atrocities that happened and their duty to continue educating the world.
It was not a genocide against Rwanda, it was a genocide against Tutsi group. So people deny the genocide, they use different names, they use different numbers, and we feel insulted because when people avoid to tell the truth, there is a big risk to repeat the same ideology somewhere else, because never again is it true in Rwanda, but genocide can happen to any country.
In our sports stories, the Deputy RDC Luwero District Katabazi Sif has advised women in the district, in particular and other Ugandan women in general, to work with the government that is in power to enable them attain development. The Deputy RDC Luwero District Katabazi has given the advice while officiating at this year's belated Luwero District Women's Day celebrations, where he has been chief guest. The celebrations have been held at St. Chizito Kasala Primary School Playground in Kasala, Butotumla, Sub-County, Luwero District. Katabazi Sif clarifies that the sitting government has a mandate to help lift all its subjects out of the doldrums of poverty and ignorance, regardless of whether these people supported it in the elections or not.
Government ya NRM etukulembedde bulungi kubanga programs ezisinga obungi ezijja z'abakyala. Tubadde ne web wano, tubadde ne YLP, tubadde ne PDM, tulina grokati yakatandika era agenda kutandika mu madistricts gaffe gonna.
Naye mu mwoyo yange neetaagamu abakyala ab'amaanyi nga bwe bayogera talogera mu butono. Kwanza ebyo Katonda asanyuse waliwo omwana bamuzaala kiberenge kikerege waba lunasuwa kumbirooli noli abadde ajja wange kuŋŋamba nti omwana ono agamba ayagala kusoma civil engineering yafunye obubonero 16 ne bwe twagezezaako okwogera omwana wange talowooza kirala kyonna yagamba civil kyati n'abawala bonna bennyina nageza omuwala ng'alina abawala bana nga bakoze bulungi nnyo okusinga abalenzi bwe tubeera awamu ne tuyimirira babiri tujja kuzimba famire amaka geeyagaza amaka geggwanga kuba eggwanga likolebwa bwantu maama ne taata bwe babuulirira abaana ne baweerera abaana bebo abaana bagenda okubeera bakulembeze b'eggwanga enka bogenda okulengera RDC mu myaka emito egyange bampeerera kyali maanyi ga maama na taata naye bwe wawawuka maama n'asigala bw'omu lwaki tuvuma nti mpisa za nnyina gwe taata waliwa ekyo tukikyuseemu abazadde abaana twakuza babiri ate ensi tugizimba bameka gwe weebuuze lwaki jjajja mwami atambula ne maama Jeneti ensi bagifuga maama namuba amaka galamula eri maama yakakkanya nti taata kwatamu mpola abasuubuzi bakwateeko looti nti leero ledda kaakati kiriwo ekiti ne kitambulawo ekiti
Thank you for watching UBC Lunchtime News. Stay tuned for more programming coming your way. My name is Sharon Kyomugisha.
After the massive launch of the Museveni Awoma hit song in Kololo, Mukono, Nabweru Wakiso District and Masulita War Zone, Munamasa Kansereko Emma takes Museveni Awoma to Mityana on Friday, the 26th of April 2024 at Mityana Saza Ground. We shall start with Bulungi Wansi, a health camp, and then a boom of entertainment with thousands of comedians and artists, all at a free entry. Auntie Jaja Gabude, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be our chief guest. Come, let's have fun with Jaja. Don't miss.